Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have quite a few people rolling in still this morning, so I'll take a minute to let everybody get in here, but we'll get started. I think we have a lot of people back from our previous 3 sessions, so welcome all of you. For anyone who has not joined us, my name is Eric Delary. I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center at Blue Mountain Community College. And for any of you who aren't familiar with the Small Business Development Center, we have a team of advisors who are business owners as well, and have a lot of experience in helping you with any aspect of your business that you need. So we're available for cost-free advising, really for anything that you might need a hand with. So feel free to reach out to us. Nick will post a slide at some point that has all of our email addresses on it. Feel free to jot that down, or the phone number for our office, and give us a call, and we're here to help. So today is the last and final session in our 4-part digital marketing essentials series, Grow Your Following. We've covered a lot of things over the last few weeks. Some of you also would have received an email that showed the last 3 sessions, and they're all available to watch on our YouTube in a playlist. We'll post this one. We usually get it out within about a week after it's live. So that you can review anything that you might have missed, or if you know of somebody who didn't get to join us this morning, you can pass it along to them as well. All of these things are on our Facebook. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and then our YouTube. Feel free to subscribe. So as we move forward with more of these, we'll be posting them there. Everybody is on mute right now, but as we go through the sessions, Nick's going to ask if people have questions, if you'd like to share comments, and we encourage interaction on these calls. We want to make sure that we're answering your questions and maintain as much discussion as we can, while also making progress through the presentation. None of this would be possible without Susan Bauer and the team at Eastern Oregon Business Source, and of course our always awesome host Nick Nash, who's just done an incredible job over the last month. So we're excited to see what he's got for us today, and I'll kind of let him kick that off with some housekeeping and just kind of a few reminders of how we get started. So Nick,
excellent. Thank you for the very warm introduction, Eric. I will share my screen real quick here. It's funny how you can do this 100 times, and then the 101st time it's a little bit slower. All right. Let me get everything set up the way that I want it, and we will get going. Okay, so I'm sure that we're all well aware that we're here for growing your social media following. We have had 4 sessions so far in this series. We first talked about social media in overview, social media setup, which went through the process of setting up all of the different various social media accounts you might be interested in, website and e-commerce last week, and of course, growing your following this week. As Eric mentioned, all of these are available on the SBDC's YouTube page. If you want to review any of them, they are there. I also would need to pitch what is coming next month, which is the Financial Essentials for Business series. The days of the week are the same. So March 3rd from 9 to 10, Financial Essentials. March 10th from 9 to 10, Creating Financial Reports. March 17th from 9 to 10, QuickBooks. And March 24th from 9 to 10, Growth and Funding. We certainly look forward to having you all there. Myself and the EOBS team will also be leading these sessions. So if this is something that's at all interested to you, we encourage you to come along. So as Eric mentioned, here is the slide with the contact information for BMCC's SBDC. Now we can see their general email address across the top there, as well as their phone number, and then everybody's picture and personal email addresses. If you're not having a chance to jot this down quickly before we get going, I will show this slide again at the end so you can look forward to that. Of course, this is the company I work for, Eastern Oregon Business Source. We are located in Pendleton, Oregon, across from the Umatilla County Courthouse. We do a variety of different things as identified there on our ad. Some of those include things like strategic planning, leadership development, and custom trainings, just like this one. And we also do those in person in non-COVID times, as well as online. So we have a wide range of skills for whatever your business needs are. Now, Eric kind of got into this, but I find it's helpful for the speaker to just mention it again, so we're sure that we're all on the same page. Oops. Some video conferencing norms during the session. It's, of course, good etiquette to mute yourself if you're not talking. Everybody has been so fantastic at this. I'm very grateful that's not always the case, so you all are fantastic. Thank you. And if you're using a phone, make sure that you mute yourself using your phone's actual physical mute button. The session is intended to be interactive. There's actually quite a few different questions today. You can unmute yourself and talk. And if you do this, it's totally okay to interrupt. I assure you, I don't take it personally. It's just part of this video conferencing world that we live in. Sometimes because I can't see you, the only way that you can get your word in edgewise is to interrupt. Totally acceptable. You can also type into the chat. The representatives from the SBDC will be monitoring it, and they will speak up as necessary and also answer questions directly back to you in the chats, to make sure to use that if that's more your style. You can also click on the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand or use any of the reactions. It will tell me, and I will call on you if that is your style. So please feel free to be interactive. It's a lot more fun. And to get our voices in the space, I'm going to begin with a question like I normally do, actually 2 questions. So what tips or tricks have helped you build your social media following? And what do you struggle with when it comes to social media? So what do we think? What are some tips and tricks that you've used just to kind of prime the pump and get us thinking? Or what things have you struggled with?
I'll go.
Please, please.
I started using Canva, and I made my first 2 like Instagram posts like with it, and I'm learning about like the whole color scheme thing. And really, Canva is an amazing program, and I so recommend it because it took me a second to, you know what I mean, but it's amazing. Like, it is
Nice.
absolutely amazing. Still getting, used to it, but absolutely awesome sauce. So yes.
Nice. And
And I'm sorry I don't have my video on. I don't want to be distracting.
Oh, no worries. No worries at all.
I just wanted to be here because I love this.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Somebody else, what tips or tricks have helped you build your social media following, or what is it that you're struggling with when it comes to social media?
I'll share the struggle. So I'm a photographer, and I actually find a lot of comfort behind the camera, not in front of the camera. But in terms of social media, some of the best ways to kind of approach it, especially for like younger generation, would be through TikTok, through your personal stories. And the best way to do it is to actually put your face in there. And it's kind of like contradicting, especially as a person who likes to put somebody else in front of the camera and make them look great versus putting yourself out there and stuff. So I'd like making videos such as like little funny videos, behind the scenes videos, is what actually helped me a lot with my social media following. But my struggle is actually putting myself in front of it. I'd much rather use somebody else's face than mine. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I think that plenty of people, I think, share sort of that experience. It sounds like for you, it comes directly from your experience as a photographer. You like to be behind the camera. Flipping that camera around and pointing at you is a little bit weird. But it sounds like, if I understand you correctly, that you have at least done that somewhat and used it to build your following. And this is an excellent place to start as we move into the rest of this training, because you're going to hear repeated now and then some of the things that you brought up, right? The importance of behind the scenes pictures and capturing what's going on behind the scenes at your business can be a valuable thing to use as you build your social media following. So Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else that's on fire to speak this morning?
I have a little trick that's helped me quite a bit
Please.
gain some followers on Facebook. And that is, I'll have people who are more inclined to want to be in pictures than myself are. And they'll do selfies or model some of the new arrivals or be in some of the pictures. And then I can tag them.
Okay.
And when you tag them, then it kind of reaches out to their circle of people.
Yes.
And that's helped me get more coverage. I think a lot of people just assume if they know about your business or what you offer, everybody they know must also know.
Yes.
And then if you see one and you go like, oh, you've got 150 likes or reactions or whatever, as the admin of that page, you can go in and actually see who those people are, and it'll tell you if they've ever been invited to like your page or not. So you can go through there and invite them to like the page, and that's helped because that's people of people who like the store. So it's a little bit of a subtle referral from that person also.
Yeah. And I think in many ways, maybe not even so subtle of a referral.
Well, that's true.
And that is a fantastic tip, and in fact, not one that we're going to cover today. So, if that example spoke to you and sounded like something excellent that you can do to move your following forward, be sure to take advantage of it. It's a fantastic example. Thank you.
So Nick?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I see across the board, especially in the chat, is that a lot of people are having just a really hard time being consistent with it.
Yes.
In order to grow your social media, you have to be consistent. Depending on what your product or your services is, it's important that you post regularly throughout the week. And one of the things that I found that you do it at very random times, as you're seeing your clientele in peak times or in specific times, there's things you really need to pay attention to. When you post and you get more traffic, that's a good time to continue to post. The other thing is that if you are in groups, one thing Heather's really gotten good at on her social media is how many different groups she posts in. Because if you're allowed to post your products or your services in specific groups, you're going to reach so many more people and get a lot more traffic to your social page.
Yeah. Fantastic examples. Very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sherry. Excellent. All right. So, and there's going to be lots of other opportunities for you all to share your experiences. And I really encourage you to do so because there's so many different things that we can do to help build our social media followings. And I could only pick so many to include. So the ones that you use and have been successful with is an excellent opportunity, if you don't hear them here, to speak up and talk about them to help your fellow small business owners. So the plan moving forward, we're going to begin by considering some important questions that are worthwhile to think about before you begin trying to grow your social media accounts. Then we're going to consider different types of content that you can post. And we're going to talk about how often you should post. I think a very interesting question that might be helpful to a lot of us. We're going to learn about how to use hashtags on each of the major social media sites. And I'll just pause here for a moment and say that this turned into a much bigger task than I ever imagined when I sat down to put it together. So we'll be talking about hashtags for a little while. And then we're going to talk about different ways to grow your following for each of the social media sites. And along the way, have the opportunity to share things that have worked for each of us. And then we're going to quickly overview the setup process for a Facebook / Instagram shop, because that was mentioned in the overview. It's going to be pretty quick, and it will tie us back to our last session about e-commerce. So before you begin going out to grow your following, something that's pretty helpful is to create a plan, right? So you don't want to just start a social media page and trying to grow it without thinking about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. right? So a few questions that can be helpful to ask: who is your audience? Who are you going after? Who are you trying to attract to your page? What are your business's goals? And how does this audience coincide with those goals? What are you using, why are you even using social media to accomplish these goals? Is it because it's the best tool for the job? Is it because you feel like you should? What are your reasons? And then what social media platforms help you best accomplish your goals? It's totally okay for you to reflect on each of the social media platforms that we've covered in the last few weeks and to decide to yourself, I don't really think that I'm in the mood to be on Twitter. I'm not convinced it's really going to help me, and it's going to take up a lot of extra time. Look, if that's a conclusion you come to, that's totally okay. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. It's probably worse to have a bunch of half-abandoned social media sites rather than one or two that are functioning really, really well. And then finally, something that's worth reflecting on is what content do you plan on sharing? So to expand on this idea a little bit, when you're trying to determine what content you should share, it can be helpful to divide the types of content that you're going to share into groups. So one awesome group is posts that add value. And I'll be honest, when I started thinking about social media this way, it was kind of a game changer for my mind, right? So the idea is that you want your posts to actually be valuable for the people interacting with them, right? You can also include posts that show the inside experience of your business. So we heard this mentioned just a little bit earlier. And this is a great thing that people are interested in that you can post to your accounts. They can be behind the scenes pictures or, whatever it might be that's the inner workings of your business. You can also include funny, fun, or shareable type posts, right? So this might include quotes or quotables or different kinds of fun pictures or graphics. It just kind of depends on how it is you present yourself on social media and how you want to present your business. But things that are quick and easy to digest can be very valuable. And finally, and we'll notice that it's at the bottom of the list, promotions. So generally speaking, it seems to be widely accepted that some of the first groups should make up about 80% of what you're posting on social media. And then promotions should make up about 20%, which I'll be honest is not the way that I had thought about this when I started thinking about it. So
I'm sorry, will you repeat the percentages? I'm sorry.
Yes. No problem. No problem. So 80-20. So 80 made up of non-promotions and then 20% made up of promotions. So we'll pause here.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And ask if there are any other kinds of social media posts that any of you all have found useful in your business. If there's a category that I missed.
Hi.
Hi.
I know that there's Messenger. There's a trick in Messenger to reach, and I haven't quite grasped that.
Mhm.
But that's another social media.
Yeah. So Facebook Messenger, which can also be tied in with the direct messenger on Instagram, is definitely another way that people can communicate with you. And I think that maybe what you're referencing is that, so if you go into the Facebook settings page for your business, there is an option under Messenger to set different kinds of automatic responses. And so that's one thing that can be helpful to help it so that your messenger automatically replies to people even when you're not available. But making sure that your messenger works and that you know where the messages come in can be a pretty valuable thing to think about. So thank you for that input. I appreciate it. So we may be wondering, how often should I post to social media? Certainly something that Susan and I talk about when we're thinking about social media for Eastern Oregon Business Source. So generally speaking, with Facebook, you want to post about 2 to 7 times per week. So notice that that's somewhere between a couple of times a week and every day. For Instagram, 1 to 2 times per day. For LinkedIn, somewhere between 1 and 7 times per week. And then for Twitter, 3 to 5 times per day or more within reason is where you might want to be. But I'll say, if this is overwhelming, and I certainly could appreciate that it may be, focus on creating a smaller number of high quality posts that you deliver on a regular schedule. So we heard this earlier, that what a lot of people struggle with is the regular posting schedule. And I will admit this is something I struggle with myself. But what you want to try to work towards, if you need a place to start, is a smaller amount of posts on a regular schedule. And then as things come together, you can go ahead and turn it up. Establishing a regular posting schedule is more valuable than the total number of posts that you are posting each day. But this is some general guidelines for where to aim.
Quick question, sir.
Please.
For the Instagram, you said that it has to be 1 to 2 times per day. Does that include just stories, reels, or it has to be like a very specific thing?
I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how Instagram breaks down its interest in those different things. The way that I intended it to be understood is just 1 to 2 total posts. So if one of the posts is a story, that's awesome. If one of the posts is a regular sort of picture post, that's also okay. If 2 of the posts are pictures, that's good. One concern, I suppose, with making both of the posts stories is that they'll disappear very quickly. And you may have reasons for not wanting to do that. I think it's worth keeping track of what your followers engage with the most and sort of leaning into that. Does that help?
Yes.
Excellent. Are there any other questions about this? Awesome. So hashtags. So this was something that came up early on and throughout our sessions. So we'll start with a couple of questions. I guess just one question. What is your experience using hashtags in social media? And I'll add a bonus question. What confusions or questions do you have about hashtags?
Anything and everything. I know nothing. I need to know.
Excellent. Well, I will definitely, you'll definitely leave with a base understanding of where you need to be. So that is good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we may even not understand what a hashtag is. Okay. So a hashtag is a word or phrase preceded by the sign there, which we may call the pound sign. That's what I call it. We may also call it the number sign or a hash. This sign is used on social media sites to identify content on a specific topic. So an example of how this might work, hashtag Oregon will bring up other posts that have used the hashtag Oregon in them. We can also combine together words. And when you do that, you want to leave out all spaces and punctuation. So social media for business is what that conglomeration of words is there. Hashtag social media for business. So lists of hashtags can also be divided into groups based on how commonly they're used. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth here in a moment. Now, we may be wondering, okay, Nick, hashtags sound cool. I more or less understand what you're talking about, but how do I even come up with these things? So the place that you want to start is by coming up with a list of topics that your business and your social media posts will cover. So sort of think about the work you do and the things that you're going to be posting on social media, and try to come up with as many different words and phrases as you can to capture that. And then from this list of topics, you can start by identifying a list of possible particular hashtags. So we saw on the previous page, Oregon. If Oregon has to do with what it is I'm posting about, I might think about including that hashtag. Eastern Oregon, maybe the city that I live in, Pendleton or Hermiston or Baker, maybe Baker City. We'll see. Maybe Baker City, Oregon. All of these things are options, and you want to write down as many as you can come up with. Once you have your list of hashtags, it needs to be long enough that you're not using the same hashtags over and over and over again. You want to have enough on your list so that you can change them out. And in fact, on some sites like Instagram, it's very important you do so, because they will flag your posts as spam if you just continue to use the same hashtags over and over and over again. So once you have your list, you want to search for the hashtags to see how popular they are. And I'm going to talk more about exactly what this means in a moment. And while you're doing this, you'll be able to find other similar hashtags, so you can kind of add to your list, and you'll see how popular those are. Then you want to divide your list of hashtags into groups based on the popularity of each tag. Okay, so what I mean here, and again, we'll see an example of this in just a moment. Some hashtags have millions of uses, others have hundreds of thousands, some just thousands, and some 1,000 or less, right? And you want to divide into groups. Generally speaking, you're probably okay, depending on what you're up to avoid the millions if you have lots and lots of words. And it's best to sort of focus on the hundreds of thousands, or thousands of or less. And you want to divide them into groups. So you can either do 4 groups or 3 groups, or however you would like to group them. And then the idea is to attach some number of hashtags from each of those groups to your posts. And the thinking behind this, and the reason why you're doing this, is because some of those hashtags are going to be brought up associated with posts that are in the millions. And so those will just sort of flash by people, and they might come across what you posted. And you can see when you get down to hundreds of thousands, it's more likely that someone looking for the hashtag you use might come across your post. And then even more likely when we're into the thousands, and probably quite likely when we get into 1,000 or less. So this just gives us some sense of how many people might come across what we post. And of course, because it can never be easy, hashtags are different for each social media site. So we're going to talk about each in turn. So for Facebook, hashtags have been a part of Facebook since 2015, but it's only recently that they've started to be more fully integrated into the site. On Facebook, it's a good idea to be more sparing with your use of hashtags, certainly more sparing than you might be on Instagram. Generally speaking, less is more with hashtags on Facebook. So if we're wondering how hashtags on Facebook work, we can go up to the search function here and search for our hashtag. So hashtag Oregon there, we see it. And we have the list I was talking about. Okay, Oregon weather, Oregonian, Oregon explored, Oregon art. Maybe some of these might be helpful to add to my list. And then when you do the search, there's the list. When you do the search, you will come to a page like this. So we see our hashtag Oregon at the top, and we see that about 107,000 people are posting about this on Facebook. And in fact, we see a post here from the Hermiston Police Department. We can't see the hashtag in it because it's buried down there a little bit, and I didn't have a good way to presented on the screen, but it is down there at the bottom of this post. All right. Another sort of weird way to search hashtags, if this is easier for you, is to type in this address, www.facebook.com/hashtags/ whatever the hashtag is you want. So Oregon here will take you directly to this page. So if that is easier for you, you can certainly search that way as well. The other way, of course, is to type into the search bar up here. Now, a couple other examples. Maybe we wanted to use Eastern Oregon. So we searched for it in the search bar and it came up. Here we can see about 1.9 thousand people are using this. All right. Maybe we want to do something even smaller. Joseph, Oregon. All right. So when the number gets small enough, it changes to people are posting about this. That I guess is how you know that the number is low. I'm not entirely sure how low it is, but in any case, you know that it's certainly lower than whatever the previous one was, 1.9 thousand. And then we get a sampling of the different places that use that. Here we go. Some hashtags in the wild on Facebook, Oregon Grain Growers Brand Distillery here in Pendleton. We see a bunch of hashtags up there. Frozen pizza, Woodfire Pizza, Craft Distillery doing work. Excellent. Our good friends at BMCC, we see Blue Mountain Community College, BMCC Virtual, keep going. All right, a very excellent sentiment, I think, in this version of the world. So a few examples of what hashtags look like on Facebook posts in the wild. All right. I'll just pause and ask if there are any questions about hashtags on Facebook. Very good. Certainly, if they come up, feel free to interrupt or add them.
I just can't believe that everyone is different. Like, you should see my face right now. You're like, I don't have my face. Oh my God, if you saw my face, dude, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yes, it could certainly keep you busy. And I will just add that it is worth.
You're amazing.
Before you dig in, spending a little bit of time researching your hashtags and making your plan will go a long way.
That is definitely what I'm going to do. Thank you so much for all this.
No problem. No problem. Happy to help. Okay, so moving on to Instagram. So on Instagram, you can use up to 30 hashtags. And as near as I could tell, there's quite a few differing opinions about whether you should use all 30 with every post or if it's better to use less. And what I would encourage you to do is to experiment. Certainly try some posts at different times during the day with all 30. Try some with a little bit less and see what works best. You can put hashtags in your caption in the text that you write for your post, or you can put it in the first comment after your post, as long as you do it immediately after you post. So if you post the picture and then very quickly after that, post the first comments with your hashtag, that will work just as well as including the hashtags in your original text post. You don't want to use the same hashtags, I mentioned this earlier, over and over again on Instagram, because if you do, it's possible to get flagged as spam, and you certainly want to avoid that. All right. So Instagram, I think, has a slightly more user-friendly hashtag search feature than Facebook did. So here's our search bar. And when we type in hashtag Oregon, we see how many different posts are using that. So on Instagram, it looks like 14.4 million posts. That is a lot. If we go down to Oregon Coast, 2.1 million. All right. Oregon Explored, 1.71 million. Oregon Life, 500,000. All right. We're getting a little bit closer. Oregon Eclipse 2017, 20,000 posts. Again, this can help you figure out what groups to divide your hashtags into. And there's our list. And this is what you're greeted with when you type in Oregon. And this is a list of other posts. And you can, of course, scroll down. There are about 14 million. that include the hashtag Oregon. If we instead look for Baker City, we are greeted with this. So we can see here about 22,381. So if our business connects with Baker, a much lower number. Maybe we just want to look for Baker City, Oregon. Notice that that is much lower, 6,500. And we're greeted with this picture. So we can sort of see that depending on which phrasing and how we put the words together, we can end up with more or less. And as I said earlier, the idea is that you kind of want to spread your hashtags across that spectrum. Another excellent example, Sugar and Frost Cupcakery from Hermiston. So they have this very lively Instagram page. And if we click here, we're met with this post and we see our excellent collection of different hashtags, and certainly doing pretty well. I think 529 likes. So that seems excellent to me. I'll pause and ask if there are any questions about hashtags on Instagram.
I have a quick question. When you typed in Oregon and it popped up with the pictures, what determined the 6 pictures that were at the top? Is that most recent or most popular to that point?
Yeah, you know, I realized, we'll go to Oregon here. I am not sure what it is that's determining this order. Does anybody know?
I think pretty typically it's number of likes or the engagement on it. So I think typically, like it says top post, so I think it kind of disseminates down from there. If you scroll down, you would get to kind of go from most popular to least popular, although in 14.5 million, it'd probably take a while to get to least popular.
Yeah.
So is there any merit in engaging yourself in your own previous post to kind of like breathe some life back into them by commenting or adding more information or pictures to things, that you'd be generating your own popularity of them? Does it work that way at all?
So do you mean so commenting on your own older posts to try to drive engagement back to them?
Yes.
Yeah. So that depending on how people have their account set up, it will mention that you are posting. So it certainly could drive interest back. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think typically too, you could do that, but maybe better use of your time would be create another post and try to continue engagement and engage in similar hashtags that you did previous, and pay attention to those posts that get more likes or more comments, and kind of stick with some of those types of patterns and maybe what you did to get that engagement in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah. That is
so on these hashtags, if you are looking at a hashtag that your competitors would be using, and you're using the same hashtags as them, initially you're driving traffic to your competitors. So would it be beneficial to go through and research your competitors' hashtags to see about mixing it up so that when you place those hashtags in there, you're not driving them to their Facebook posts?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would imagine that, you may also be driving people to your competitors. If your competitors are using the same hashtags, then they're also driving traffic back to you, insofar as that is something that follows. But I do think the idea of looking at the hashtags that your competitors are using, right, and certainly identifying the ones that they're using that are important and valuable to use, but also trying to reach out and find potential spaces that they're not covering, could be a good use of your time, depending on how it fits in with your broader strategy. So, yeah.
Can I just mention real quick too? I think if we look at hashtags as kind of a collective group of places to find the hashtag that you're looking for, you're not even necessarily directing them to your competitor, or they're directing them to you, but you're simply appearing also then with your competitor in that same space. So it could help you quite a bit too if, you know, maybe your competitor has a little bit greater following than you and you're hashtagging something similar, and then now you're showing up next to them as well as another option. And yeah, vice versa, obviously.
Perfect. That's exactly what we needed to know, Eric. Thank you.
And then Debbie actually asks, what kind of numbers are best to hashtag? Debbie, I don't know if you're able to hop on here real quick. I think what you're asking is maybe one of the things that Nick covered as well was as far as like how many hashtags there are in that certain category. So Oregon having 14.4 and Baker City having, I believe it was like 22,000, and then Baker City, Oregon having like 6. If you select some of those in different categories, so if you were to put it in Oregon at 44 or at 14 million, you may show up, but maybe less likely, but it's still in a broader range that's more typically searched. Then Baker City has a little bit less, but it's still a good amount of following, so people are still going to find it. And then you might show up even more in Baker City, Oregon. It's just a less used hashtag because it's a little bit more specific. If that's kind of what you're.
So if you pick a larger number, that'll benefit you as well. I mean, is there a limit to how many, like if it's 14,000 versus 6, they're both going to be good. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
you pick the 14,000 or the 6,000 or the 6,000 or the 14,000 or both. They're both good.
So I guess what I would interject is that, so if the numbers are 6 and 14,000, that's pretty close together, right? I mean, obviously 14,000 is a little bit more than 6, about double 6,000, right? So certainly there's about double there, but the big numbers, right? So here, Oregon is 14 million. And so sort of the process is, your post can get lost in 14 million. The way we don't want to think about it is, 14 million people are going to see my hashtag. No, it's in the mix with 14 million others, right? So being in the mix with 22,000 others is also a good thing to include in your hashtag strategy. And probably being in the mix with 6,500 others is also valuable. So the idea is to just include a nice spread to kind of increase your chances. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Very lively discussion. So LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can use hashtags in updates, articles, your profile, and in comments. And hashtags will allow you to reach a larger audience and will help you expand your network. It's important to keep your hashtags professional on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, of course, is a network for professionals. You want to keep your hashtags similarly professional. And if you're not quite sure what that might mean, it can be useful to just do some research on what other people are hashtagging on LinkedIn and kind of keep it consistent with that. So LinkedIn recommends using 3 to 5 hashtags per post. And we'll look at a couple examples of this kind of thing. So the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, one of the places I went to school. We see a couple of hashtags here, UWM and Panther Proud. Of course, the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee is the Panthers. And so their tagline, Panther Proud there. All right. Blue Mountain Community College, we saw a post similar to this. We see Blue Mountain Community College, Northwest Ag Show, and agriculture here. So, I mean, our 3 to 5 range. All right. That was a pretty quick overview of hashtags on Instagram, or excuse me, LinkedIn. But are there any questions about hashtags on LinkedIn?
Can you create your own hashtag? And if so, how do you populate it to get it popular?
Yeah, so you absolutely can be the only person that's using a particular hashtag. And notice that there can be advantages to this if you're using it as an advantage, right? So if you're doing something special and you want all of the other people that are doing that along with your business to be able to be searched on social media, then you would want to come up with a unique hashtag and encourage them all to use it in their posts. And then someone could click on that and they would see all of the other people with that unique hashtag. Of course, if you're the only person using it, that's not so great, right? Because it's probably a pretty strange string of words and no one else is searching for it or using it. And that kind of goes against the power of hashtags, right? So really, at the end of the day, what hashtags do is sort information for us. And so if only one person's using it, it only will find them. Does that help answer your question?
Mind if I interject one thing here real quick
Please.
too, Nick? One of the things that I've seen that is popular, so if like I'm a photographer, for example, and I want to just showcase just like my photos, if I use one that's like Nick says, very unpopular and no one's searching it, like Eric Delarey photo or Eric Delarey photography, it's very limited. No one else is using it. No one's going to search for it, but it will populate everything that I've used that hashtag on to showcase those photos, for example, or those posts.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for including that, Eric. That's very true, and a tremendous way to use your individual hashtag. All right. So as far as Twitter goes, Twitter recommends using 1 to 2 hashtags per tweet, although you can use as many as you would like within your character limit. So hashtags also take away from your total characters that you're allowed. And because tweets capture such an immediate moment in time, sometimes it can be appropriate to be even more precise with your hashtags, depending on what it is that you're up to. And hashtags have been shown to increase engagement in Twitter and, in fact, across all social media platforms if used within reason. So how we find hashtags on Twitter, we search in the search bar at the top, and we do Oregon again here, and we see where it has come up here and here. If we did hashtag Pendleton, we can see this very nice tweet from ODOT telling us that the freeway is open again. Something to watch out for, however, is that sometimes the word that you're hashtagging may be used for something else. So if we do hashtag Pendleton, one of the things that we discover is that Poshmark, a clothing sale place, has also been selling or has been including Pendleton wool in their collections. And maybe we are talking about the city and not so much the wool. So something to keep in mind. And it can be worth sort of checking in to see what your hashtags are referencing to make sure that it's consistent with what you want. All right. So do we have any questions about hashtags or about hashtags on Twitter more narrowly? Awesome. So we are running a little tight on time, which is totally okay. But I am going to mention that I am going to cut off the last piece about social media shops. If that's something that you're really, really, really interested in, certainly reach out to the SBDC, and I'm sure that they can help you out. All right. So a few tips for growing your Facebook following. Tip number 1. You want to interact with people who comment on your posts. So interacting with the people who comment on your post shows that you're engaged and also encourages further engagement. And people are more likely to comment on your posts if they know that you're going to engage with them when they do. And this will help you grow your organic reach. Another helpful tip is to limit the text of your post to 40 to 80 characters. Some research has been done has identified that this is in the range of optimal post lengths. So 40 to 80 characters is 8 to 16 words, which I will admit is startlingly short to me, right? This means it's best to keep your written messages very short. So we may wonder if we're not using a lot of words in our posts, what are we doing instead? And this will lead us to our next suggestion. Use video for your posts. So it doesn't have to be super, super complicated. And in fact, I believe that this was maybe created with Instagram. This is just the still of a video, which I can appreciate is maybe not so great. But in the video version of this, we see the shot of espresso sort of rumbling along here as it's being created, using what I think is called a boomerang. So videos and Canva has a variety of tools that can help you with this, as well as a number of other things you can use. Facebook has some tools built in. It's also important to use visuals more broadly in your posts. So I think an excellent example of this that I really appreciate is the East Oregonian. Every day their paper is released recently. They have been posting the cover of the digital edition on their Facebook page. So you get a nice overview of what the front page of the paper looks like. It's a pretty striking use of visuals there. And again, something that I mentioned earlier, and I'll mention again as we move through this, the thing that you want to focus on with your social media posts is adding value. You can improve your engagement by focusing on creating posts that add value for the people who are interacting with them, right? So think about what you know that other people don't and post about that. Keep the content short and engaged. We're going to skip over that question and we're going to skip over this question. We'll get to the end and then open it up. So as far as growing your Instagram following, when you first start your account, you want to make sure that you build up a good foundation of posts so that it looks like the account is being used. Here we have Baker Boyer Bank and their first row of posts, and then on down. And we can keep going, and eventually you get to the end here. So Baker Boyer, of course, as we would expect, has a good base of posts. So generally speaking, I think probably, between 6 and 10 will get you going so that your account looks populated. That is what you're after. And then drive out into the world of Instagram. It can also be valuable to remember the power of using lower ranking hashtags. So again, we see Oregon, 14 million, Eastern Oregon, 154,000, Baker City, 22,000, as it was before, Baker City, Oregon, 6,500, and Baker City Rocks, just 17. So if we did that, we would see all 17 posts. So remember, depending on what it is we're after, we can get extra engagement by finding a narrow niche that is consistent with the ideas that we are putting forward. It's also important on Instagram to engage your community. So remember, of course, that interacting and commenting on people's posts shows that you're interested in what they're saying. And people are more likely to comment when they know that you'll engage with them. And Instagram, we should remember, is really focused on creating a meaningful relationship with the people who follow you. And engaging with them will further this relationship. And again, we want to focus on adding value. Instagram, of course, is a visual platform. So we want to focus that value in visual ways. However it is, we might imagine that relating to our business. All right. So LinkedIn, a great way to proceed with LinkedIn is to develop what's called a comment strategy. So identify people who create content related to the content that you want to create, and then regularly post meaningful comments on this content. The idea of a meaningful comment is a comment that interacts with what they say, more than just saying, hey, that's great, thank you. Connect with what they're saying a little bit and add a little bit more. And then try to comment 3 to 4 times for each post that you make of your own. This sort of gives us an idea of what we might be working towards if we're trying to develop this comment strategy. In addition, don't forget that you can use images and videos. Portland State University is celebrating its 75th year this year, and they have all of these great social media campaigns asking people to submit pictures that are meaningful to them of their time at PSU. And we see all of these excellent pictures coming up across their social media. And finally, don't be afraid to repurpose appropriate content from other social media posts. LinkedIn's a social media site where it's most important to add value with your posts, I think. Given this, don't be afraid to repurpose content from other social media posts as long as it's appropriate for your LinkedIn audience. And again, starting to sound like a broken record, but focus on adding value. All right. So Twitter, it's important to share relevant information that your audience is interested in. One of my common examples, the East Oregonian, we see that they're posting about things that they assume that their audience is interested in, which is highlights of their articles. We also want to give people a taste of your personality on Twitter. So I think a couple good examples of this, the Oregon East Symphony, we see a taste of their personality early in the pandemic with them standing in a wheat field with their masks on, and their Letterbach concert earlier last year. Don't forget to use visual content. That can also be an important part of Twitter. Here we see this excellent post from Pendleton Whiskey capturing the Roundup grounds there. And the Oregonian is excellent at using pictures with their articles. One more thing is to tweet consistently and try to avoid bursts of tweets. Half of unfollows happen when an account tweets too frequently. And I suspect that any of us that have spent much time on social media know what this experience is like. All right. So I think I will just bring it in here and ask if there are any questions about growing your following on social media or hashtags or anything else that we covered, or any tips that have helped you grow your social media following that you think would be helpful to share with everybody else.
I just find it super ironic because just yesterday I made my first like video ever, you know what I mean, to post like on a website, you know what I mean, like social media. And I actually asked in that little video, like, you know, like, do more people, you know what I mean? Like, does this attract more people? Like, are more people interested in seeing more things like this?
Yeah.
So it's just the irony of it all is awesome because now I know that my like photographic like art thing, you know what I mean, that I got going on in my life, I can totally use with my business.
Yeah.
So yay.
Yeah. Yes. Very good.
This is so awesome.
Good. Are there any other experiences people have had or questions?
So as far as experience goes, one of the things that I think that's really, really important to keep in mind is that Facebook, the way it's designed is the more video content you have, the more photo content you have, the more traffic they drive to you. Yes, so even if you're going to do a post, do a simple, if you're using Canva, do a simple GIF and make it sparkle, make it jump, and use that as your main post and keep your actual content or comments to as minimum as you can. Make it short and sweet. That's really important. That's one of the things I have found that really grabs people's attention, and they do get that we get way more comments and interaction from people by keeping it short and sweet and giving them some movement. It's ironic just how a simple GIF actually promotes people to comment. It kind of cracks me up because you could do the same thing in just a photo and you're not going to get the same response.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And for those who are wondering in the background, a GIF is sort of the moving pictures, sometimes also called a GIF. And it's the simple moving pictures. And I think that you're right. There's just something that grabs people about the picture moving that the same picture not moving wouldn't accomplish. Thank you for the comment. Anybody else? We're over time, but happy to stick around. Anybody else with any experience or questions?
I had a quick question. So like, you know, I'm kind of starting off, you know, building my website and learning about the whole like color scheme thing, you know, and so I started, you know, my business Instagram. I've made 2 what I would hope are good quality posts, you know, with Canva. But I'm not sure if I have my like color scheme all the way like figured out yet. And is that going to kick me in the butt later on?
Well, I mean, certainly I think it's worth working towards a consistent color scheme.
Yeah.
Certainly, you know,
totally
no
my
one
goal.
is going to throw you off the platform if it takes you a while to get it dialed in. I think that the
Okay.
goal is to work towards that, right? And
Okay,
recognize
okay.
that that's where you want to be. If you're not quite there,
Okay.
that's okay, but work towards it.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I'm doing. So yeah, cool. And by the way, everybody, I learned something insanely cool about the color blue the other day and how it affects social media and how apparently the color blue really attracts people. So yeah, I was totally tripped out. Like it was crazy all the stuff I was reading about blue. And I mentioned to my husband, I was like, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, what colors? And he was like, blue.
Excellent. Excellent.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody else questions or comments? Certainly, we appreciate your time today, and I appreciate all of your time across the last month. And we certainly look forward to seeing many of you again in our next set of sessions in March. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Hey, quick question. I think you said something about like if people attend like all 4 like courses, they get a certificate or something. Did you say that, or is that a different class?
I did not say that. Yes.
Okay, that was
So,
a different
yeah.
class.
Okay.
I'm just super grateful. So thank you so much for everything. And I take notes and like you don't even know, like I'm using this like to my advantage and to build something for my family. So thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you for that feedback. We appreciate it. I'm glad that it was helpful for you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here today, and keep an eye out for an email for our financial essentials classes in March. See y'all soon. Have a great day.
Bye. Have a good day. Thanks, you guys.